Welcome back to Radio Taiwan International. You're listening to Geek Out. What's your cup of tea? Tickles your fancy or floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world. I'm your host, Sharon Lin, and today in the studio we have the one and only Michelle Chiang.
Hi, guys.
You might be wondering, why am I hosting Geek Out? Because we're geeking out with Michelle Chiang. So what are we geeking out about?
So today I kind of want to touch on why I started the show Geek Out. It's really because I am what they call a jack of all trades.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about being a jack of all trades, as you mentioned. So
it's something that a lot of people can relate to because the second half of that idiom is jack of all trades, master of none.
Oh.
So it's kind of like
sounds a little bleak, but
it sounds right. It sounds a little bit bleak.
Yeah, but yeah, finish.
Yeah,
first.
it's maybe people dabble in a lot of different things and even get pretty good at it, but perhaps not master any single one of them. I don't think I have ADD or ADHD, but I have moved from hobby to hobby to hobby. And I love like falling down internet rabbit holes, researching whatever. And that's kind of just what I've done my whole life. So by starting this show, I have fun because most of the people whom I get in, I can relate to.
Oh yeah, they're great. And honestly, listeners, if this is your first time listening to Geek Out, hey, hello. The show, the vibe of the show is really great because you yourself is someone who's very passionate about so many things. And then the guests you have on, they're the same. They're very passionate about that one thing they're talking about or more. Mm-hmm. So the conversation just comes out very naturally. And at least that is what I really love about a show. So Geek Out definitely has that. Yeah, but when you mentioned like geek of all trades, being a jack of all trades, I thought of the idea of being a Renaissance person. Like,
I guess, yeah.
I would consider myself kind of like that. So it definitely depends on how you approach it. I don't think it's a bad thing.
No,
but,
it's not.
When you were a kid, do you have experience where, I don't know, probably older family members, they were suggesting you kind of narrow down
a
couple of things?
Coming from a quote-unquote traditional Asian family, of course, I should be a doctor.
Oh, yeah. I had that at some point,
right?
too.
Exactly. Seriously, I actually graduated in fine arts. I'm a printmaker.
Yeah, which I love.
With a second major in oil paint.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I have not been able to make anything for a long time, partly because printing presses are very hard to come by.
Yeah.
It's a large mechanical thing in a large
you need
that requires space, right? It's almost impossible to own your own in places like Taiwan because you just don't have very much living space. And I've always had animals in my living space, so having oil paints and all the solvents and things around is not
having a cat.
I know it's not a great idea. That's actually potentially quite dangerous. So I haven't really done anything pertaining to my college major for a very, very long time. But ever since I was a young kid, I would do pastels, watercolors, pottery, all of it.
When was the last time that you felt that you created something that's very closely related to the arts?
Writing.
Okay.
I guess because I haven't been able to be very tactile, like actually making physical art, then I also really, from a small age, loved books and a lot of different books, but really loved fantasy books specifically.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so everything from The Hobbit I was older when Harry Potter came out, but I perhaps was reading really inappropriate books. For example, horror.
Oh,
okay. Like Stephen King's It, I read when I was like 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so brave.
A lot of people would say, "What were you doing reading that kind of?" Because there's scenes in it that are really inappropriate for young children. But let's just say that my mom would take me to the library thinking that it's a great idea, which it is. You should definitely take your children to the library. But she did not monitor which books I was bringing back.
Okay.
And hey, there's a clown on the cover, so so that's what happened. And Pet Sematary, there was a cat on the cover. So I read a lot of fiction, a lot of fantasy, some horror. So then I get into I guess fan fiction, or I write in play-by-post games on Discord and online. So it's really creating a story using words.
I love that. I would say you're also a logophile, like you're a lover of words.
Oh, I love words.
Yeah, and I think it translates so well because as a fellow fantasy lover, I just really felt that those things, I don't know, I think it's I would say it's okay. Say you're not reading books that are like really sort of like straight up very bad for kids, but those sort of horror stories, they expand your imagination.
Oh yeah.
And you are a very creative person.
Oh, thank you.
Hands down. So, okay, then what are other things that you dabbled in and you still do kind of?
I'm going to say animal science, like husbandry. So I was that little kid who would be outside feeding the neighbor's cats.
Oh.
And, like I would have a little fish net and I'd be scooping around the water at the creek.
Oh, the creek. I thought you were saying other people's ponds.
I mean, if there was a pond I found, I would probably do that.
Yeah, okay.
But the neighbors where I grew up, it was really, really suburbia, bordering like ranch pasture. So there were horses. So I'd be petting people. Yeah, no, right?
I love horses. Don't get me started. I'm hosting. I should. Okay.
I would bring my carrot sticks to feed the horses. And it's like my bologna sandwiches, I only ate bread because I fed the bologna to the cats and stuff like that. I was that little kid who loved the neighborhood animals. And then biology class, when they actually did start specializing a little bit, was my favorite. Absolute favorite. I actually originally set out on my education track to become a vet.
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah.
But it's like, so I was on the vet track until I went to two reasons. One, anyone, if you're young and like listening to this, please don't let me discourage you. If you can do it, absolutely do it, because vets are selfless, wonderful people.
Yeah.
But you have to do so much lab work in college. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I went and volunteered at a vet back in the States. And honestly, the animals hate you at a vet. They absolutely...
Because they feel insecure.
Of course.
The
vet is
afraid
one of the
what
most horrible places that you can go.
It's stressful, yeah.
It's very stressful. That place smells like fear and disease and death. So I get it. I understand why the pets are very scared and perhaps don't like you very much. And it's just a lot of people made mistakes which caused their pet to need veterinary care. And that was the thing that would make me so angry. They didn't do their research. They were feeding the wrong stuff. They weren't careful when whatever, right? And therefore their animal has to go to the doctor. And that, I think, was the biggest reason for me to switch careers or switch education tracks. And then I went into basically thinking that I could open a pet retail establishment. Because then that's the beginning of it, right? It's the beginning of when people are even considering adding a pet to their family, then you can teach them what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, and I felt like you would definitely do it in a very ethical way, an educational way, because we chatted about the pets that you've had and also are having. Yeah.
So that's that. Instead of the pet, also the pets don't hate you at the pet store; they love you. It's a very different. The pets love going to the pet store.
A new toy.
Yeah, it's new toy. You got a treat. Yeah, loved it.
It's so funny. This morning I was just at one of those stores because I thought about getting something for Boo because it's Izzy's birthday today, actually, the day of our recording. Yeah, but like that store, I don't know. I just skipped that because I'm not that knowledgeable about Pomeranians, so I don't want to get something that's not like useful or like
not appropriate. Or something.
So I skipped that idea.
I mean, there is a lot of selection, and the reason why I actually did not press forward with a pet retail establishment is the reason why a lot of people no longer start up brick and mortar stores, because the internet is actually now driving a lot of small businesses out of business. And I saw that happen to the place many places I frequented in Boston, and it's actually so hard to start up a physical shop now.
Yeah,
it is.
I agree.
And it's sad. It's really sad because then you cannot, as the owner or staff of the shop, deliver that kind of advice to people.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and especially face-to-face interaction, I think is super important for education in all fields. Yeah, I would say. So switching gears a little bit, let's talk about your passion for fantasy. And I know you're a huge you play D&D, and you're like D&D is okay. Let's talk about that.
D&D is life. Okay, so
say it again.
D&D is life. And I'm kind of a late bloomer in that respect. I was always
when
a
did
nerd.
You get into it?
When I was 29 years old, I was invited to play some board games.
That's me now.
I know, right? It's fairly later on in life compared to when most people are introduced to tabletop games, right? Eric Gao, shout out to you. He then it's like, do you want to play this role-playing game called D&D? It's pretty cool. You get to create your own character and so on and so forth. And then I fell headfirst through that.
At that point, you knew nothing about Dungeons and Dragons.
I knew some.
Okay.
It is probably the most frequently mentioned RPG or TTRPG out there, because in the nerd world, you hear about D&D sometimes.
I started to think, when was the first time that I heard about it? I think it was a couple of years ago from some celebrities that they play a lot of D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Like Joe Manganiello and
Vin Diesel.
Henry Cavill also plays.
Henry
Yeah. So
Cavill,
like people like that, and also like real like people, real people in my life telling me about D&D is you.
Oh yeah.
So and we played a couple of times.
Yeah, I ran a couple of games
game
for y'all. It's fun. Or rather, it's as fun as you want it to be. So as much investment as you put into the game, it gives back to you.
So let's give a picture for listeners who know little to nothing about D&D.
Okay.
So, let's start with character creation.
Oh.
What do you mean by you can create almost like whatever personality? Like,
well, okay, to be fair, there are rules. So you can't just make anything you want. Well, kind of. You can, and then kind of adapt the rules to it. But there are obviously rules so that a character can be played in this world with other characters and everything can be fair. Now, at this point, so many different races of people that you can be. Everything from gelatinous people, like goo people, all the way through to insectoid people and cat people. And obviously, you can be human if you want, but very rarely anyone is. But yeah. And of course, your classics like dwarf and elf and stuff. Yeah. So it gives people the freedom to be whatever you want to be. And in a world where there's just a bunch of ugly anger, like inducing horror, right? Like if you just look at the news today, it's so depressing. I can understand why this genre of entertainment is becoming more and more popular, because it's an escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I was chatting with also fellow like English majors who talk a lot about fantasy, and I think someone said fantasy is not only helping us quote unquote escape reality, but it helps us live in it.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
It helps us process.
Yeah.
And it gives your mind time to rest and be happy so that you recharge to face, the actual real world.
Yeah. And also, like, I think also I was chatting with you about this, that creating your own character, and also it really helps like with your creativity. I think creativity really does, like, it really helps you. It's a good amount of it is very healthy for you.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know some people probably have never thought of it.
Yeah.
Because as someone who has like a very broad field of interest, how do you feel like you being someone who is creative has helped you in your daily life, like facing different either challenges or like very strong emotions?
Okay, so I also dungeon master, or DM, which is the person who tells the narrative or the story that players are playing in, right? And we have touched on subject matter that makes me very frustrated and angry, such as climate change and, the horror that is Donald Trump. Yeah, feel free, come at me. But yeah, stuff like that, right? Things that I have trouble with in IRL, I have applied to in games, and then we successfully defeat the beast, or solve the problem, right? Yes. And then I go back to the real world thinking maybe there are people working out there to kill the lich. So it's it gives people hope, I think.
I love the way you put it. I'm not surprised because you're amazing. You're inspiring. Because I felt that it just fantasy, or what kind of creative outlet and art, it really helps people so much. Like when I find myself in a frustrating situation, it could be from anything, work, daily life, or relationships. Yeah. I find that channeling that into something that I can create, like writing or making videos or music, it really helps you so much.
Oh yeah.
And it gives you clarity, and also it inspires you to really just like turn something that is
negative
into something that is precious.
It's empowering to do that. So I actually did something that was a mishmash, or what did they call it? Mashup of two things that I really like to do the other day.
Okay.
You tuned in and watched it for a little bit.
Oh, okay. Tell us.
On Twitch TV/Carney Sideshow.
Hey, huge shout out to Chris.
Yeah, he does. Chris does some fun streams. One of which is called Recipe for Disaster. And what that is because we all play D&D and or other tabletop role-playing games that involve dice, is we come up with a list of ingredients, like maybe numbered 1 through 6, and various different genre of ingredients, so like carbs, fats, proteins, vegetables, and yada yada. And then we roll to see which ingredients we have to use to create some monstrosity of a dish.
Delicious. So the question is, what did you?
And then I get to cook.
Okay, in the end, what did you come up with? What sort of dish?
That episode was specifically coconut oil for fat, and then for protein we had tofu and vegetarian rousong, which is like pork floss.
Pork floss, dried. Yep.
And then for carb, we were using pancake something. And then for, what else was there? Vegetable, we had bamboo shoot. And then on the chaos table, which is just weird stuff, we had peanut butter and mustard. Oh, and fruit. I think that came through as well. So I had a banana. So it's like, it's actually pretty fun. It's like Iron Chef, but elevated. Like
roll for perspective.
You have mystery ingredients, and you have to figure out how to create a dish that is edible using this crazy, assortment.
Well, I would totally eat those things separately.
Exactly. But you have to make them into one dish. So what I did was I mashed the banana, bamboo, tofu into, I know, right? Oh, gross. Sharon's making faces. It's great. And chat allowed me to add an egg as a binding agent into a kind of a paste, which I then pan fried into little pancakes. So they are little discs of let's just call them discs, pancakes, right? And then I toasted the crepe and crushed it up so it's breadcrumbs, and then I sprinkled them on top with the pork floss of a sauce made from peanut butter and mustard. It was that particular episode was a fail.
So chic.
I mean, and everything was pan fried in coconut oil. So that's how I combine all this stuff. Okay, look, if you omitted the mustard, it actually would have been edible. Like if you listen to Chris and Kim was also on that episode, they said it's edible without the sauce.
I've never tried bamboo shoots together with bananas and what's in there again?
Because bamboo doesn't really have too much of a flavor. It's just crunchy.
Yeah, so it's like it's not like it doesn't give a too dominant taste to the thing.
It was fine.
Okay.
Kind of like having like water chestnut or something in a dish.
Did you all end up eating, like finishing everything?
Oh, we have to eat it.
Oh.
That's the caveat.
Okay. So that one was wow.
I love cooking. And I love watching cooking shows. My favorite genres of cooking actually being Korean. And then really OG classic American, quote unquote American stuff. I guess someone called me a purist.
Oh.
Or a classist when it comes to food, which means I don't like fusion.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally speaking, if I like Italian, it's straight up Italian, not Japanese Italian or something like that.
Okay, since we talked about the recent stream you did, so what are some recent new interests that you're enjoying right now? That's something you've never done before.
Partially because I'm so into aquariums, both saltwater and freshwater. I have finally gotten the funds and the time to go get my scuba certification.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'm finally getting my PADI license, and it's fun. I've done Discovery Scuba before, so I know roughly how everything works. And I'm taking my husband and my friend Fiona along with me for the ride. I'll eventually get you on the show, Fiona. Don't worry, it's cool. It's really neat to see where all of these animals that are sometimes in the pet industry, where they come from, like where they live in the wild. And a little bit sad also to see the slow degradation of the condition of our oceans. And it does help you be more conscious about how you live. I guess the sentiment is, if you are interested in many, many different things, that is awesome. And it does actually give you, more facets to your personality.
I agree,
it's only a win, right? And it does make you more adaptable if you are encountering new challenges or, you know, new job, making new friends.
Oh, yeah.
It gives you more ability to relate.
I agree. And I love trying new things, and you're always so resourceful. And I think a lot of it also comes into like you're very open to new experiences.
You gotta be, right? It's like it's the
some people like really couldn't.
but try everything once. Why not? You never know if you're gonna like it. So I guess it's a more hopeful way to approach life. You know, YOLO, why not?
Yeah. So with that note, thank you so much for geeking out with me today, Michelle, and also letting me guest host Geek Out for the day.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
And thanks, listeners, for tuning into Radio Taiwan International. Again, I'm Sharon Lin, and we'll be back next Thursday with another episode of Geek Out, hosted by Michelle. So see you then.
Bye.